Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're continuing with Saturnastra Woden. This is Chapter 6, Her Brewing. Egana said to Jotun, "My name is Bayl, can you say bye?" The girl shook her head in negation, and based on her family friend, she had not understood what I had said to her. And it would take some time, I suppose, and the conversation was brought short when the second son entered the room unexpectedly. And when he saw me, he said, "Cool, you have a demon." "I am surprised by your kind of reaction," I commented dourly. "I try to keep a positive attitude about my second sight," explained the second son. "And my great-grandpa had it, so now I have it." "And the way you speak of it makes it sound like a genetic disease or something," I said, frowning. "What's genetic?" asked the brat. "Genetic is something you get from your parents, like the hair and eye color or a malformity," explained Woden. "I see, so that girl has a bunny face because her parents have bunny faces," said the brat. More or less," said Woden, not desiring to get into too much details. "Whatever, who cares? More to the point. Are you possessed or something?" asked the brat. "Do I look possessed to you?" asked Woden. "No, the priest said that only possessed people are stalked by demons," explained the brat. "Stalking and possession are two different things, little man," I said. "Bryce is what I'm called," said Bryce. "My name is of no relevance to you," I said. "Your name is Bayl, and I heard you introduce yourself to the little girl," said Bryce. "It's Bayl, and don't forget it," I said, posturing and flapping my head wings. I then covered my face and eyes in shame, annoyed at giving away my name to a stranger. And I made my way towards the corner of the room and made my physical body invisible to wait for the brat to leave, and I heard him say to Woden, "What is his problem?" "I don't know, who knows? He gets a little bit sulky like that sometimes," explained Woden. "Is he like your servant or something?" asked Bryce, coming to stand behind me. "Sort of," said Woden. "Can you order him to do any tricks?" asked Bryce. "I could, couldn't I?" said Woden, sitting on the bed beside Jotun, who was watching the scene with mild amusement. The girl was finally smiling a little. "Make him fly around in circles or something, and have him shoot flames or whatever. I don't know, just make him do something cool," said Bryce. "I refuse," said Woden. "Why?" asked Bryce, disappointed. And Woden stood on the bed and then pointed to her chest before saying, "Because I, sir, am a fellow who enjoys wiping her own bottom." "I wipe my own bottom too, and you do not see me bragging about it," said Bryce, shrugging his shoulders. And then pointing at me, he said, "Now, demon, I invoke your name, Bayl, and I command you to get up and fly around in circles, or do something amazing." And I got up and turned to face the brat, and I do not know what it was about my expression that made Bryce say, "On second thought, you can sit back down, and I was only teasing you a little, no harm done." I then said to Bryce, "Use your words wisely, Master Bryce, for they are very powerful indeed." "Neat, does that mean I am a magic user then?" asked Bryce happily. "I always wanted to learn magic, but I was never certain if I had magical powers." "What he means is that words hurt, you know," translated Woden. "Oh," said Bryce, folding his arms. "And second sight is nothing special," explained Woden, "and most people have it, but they choose to tune it out. Kind of like how I can tune out the priest doing his boring sermon," said Bryce more to himself. "And that is your business, I suppose," said Woden. "It is going to be your problem as well, and now that you are part of the family," explained Bryce. "And Mom is super religious, and she drives us to the temple whenever we all happen to have a spare moment." "Everyone needs a hobby," said Woden coolly, falling back on the bed. "A hobby, and that is one way to put it," said Bryce, laughing. "Though I would prefer it if that mother of mine spent her time doing something else more productive. We all do what we must to sleep well at night, and if it makes her happy and a nice person, who cares?" said Woden, and she added, "Regardless, I'm not going to temple with you people, and I do not know how long I am going to linger here." And the conversation was brought short by a bell, and Bryce explained, "That is the dinner bell. See you then." After Bryce left the room, the maid entered, and she bathed and changed Jotun, and when she approached Woden, my little mistress started to run away from her. And after giving chase to Woden all over the bedroom, the maid gave up and took Jotun downstairs. And Woden lingered in the bedroom, and as soon as she was alone, she bathed and changed her robes into another form. And the robes were, if anything, very versatile, and they always kept fresh. And when Woden arrived, the maid was explaining to Bruin her problem with Woden, and she stopped when she saw Woden all dressed and dainty as a pink gardenia. And Bruin had a Woden and sat her on her lap, and then he asked, looking at her in the eyes, "And what seemed to be the problem with the maid?" Apparently she was new, and for the life of the Bruin he could not remember her name, and Woden was about to speak, but Bryce interjected. Father, the girl told me that she likes to wipe her own bottom. As do I, said Bruin, taking it to heart. And then thinking a little bit more, he said to Woden, well, I suppose you must be used to taking care of yourself and your sister by now. And after saying this, he said Woden on a chair beside her, and then he said Jotun beside her so-called sister. And once everyone was in their place, the food was served. And the food was served wasn't too appealing for my taste, and it did not humor Woden either, and she focused all of her attention on the bread, which is soaked in steak oil. And Woden was usually a good bread eater, and while the dinner progressed, there was silence, and as people focused on their food, and I studied their faces one by one, and now that I had a moment to do so, both Philippa and her two oldest kids had ebony skin, and straight black hair and deep green eyes, and Bryce, who was 13, looked more like his father, with olive skin, curly brown hair, and hazel eyes, and all three boys had the same round faces, large forehead of their mother, and the small nose and thin lips of their own man. While I studied their faces, Bryce studied me, and it was annoying to run into a brat that had second sight, and the only comfort was that the kid had enough common sense to keep his mouth shut. And to test this theory, I said to Woden, tomorrow I am going to town to murder a couple of people. And Woden said nothing as I expected, and after getting bored of her bread, she started stacking the food, and she mashed her potato flat, and then using a bit of carrot, she gave it ice, and for her she added some meat. And Philip, who was sitting beside Woden, said, Mom, the new girl's playing with her food. Clean your plate, started saying Philippa. Woden said, turning to his mother. I know what her name is, said Philippa, and getting up, Woden took her plate to the kitchen, and she fed the excess foods to the barking dogs outside the garden. And when she was done cleaning the plate, she brought it to Philippa before saying, done. And that is not what I meant, and you know it, said Philippa, gritting her teeth. And they both chuckled behind their napkins so that their mother would not see them laughing at her. And even Bruin could not help but repress a faint amused smile. And sighing, Woden said, narrowing her eyes, what a bother. And as she started to walk out, Philippa made a sign to one of the servants, who set Woden on her chair once again, and Philippa said sternly, you are not excused as of yet. And why should I be excused? I haven't done anything wrong, insisted Woden. Yes, you have. In this house, we eat as a family, and you're not allowed to leave till everyone has finished their meal, insisted Philippa. And Woden bit her lower lip as she looked around and thought of the best course of actions. And since nothing came to mind, she started to rock back and forth as do most irritated rats. She started, It's like, oh my god, I can't believe I have to sit in the chair being bored. Her eyes trailed a bit, as did Bryce. As for the others, they were still focusing on their food. And as if struck by a sudden bit of inspiration, I went to the pantry and slowly switched the items from location. And I did it all stealth-like because there were a lot of ice floating about during dinner. And the kitchen was a little bit emptier, and I started to get a nice workout there too. And I did almost imperceptible changes, like putting one of the pans in the pantry instead of on the cover, or I scrambled the order of the jars of preserves, and I only stopped when the dog started barking at me and growled. And when I concluded this task, I returned to find that Woden had slipped out of her chair, and she was cleverly under the table making her way towards the door. And at the end she saw the legs of the maid, and she could see that the maids were waiting for Woden to lift the tablecloth, and to avoid this she affected the perception of the maids and making her see her but not actually perceive her. And once she escaped the dining room, Woden made her way towards the outside garden, and I followed behind her, and Bryce stood at the table, ignoring her mother's protestation. And I do not know why he finds a demon such as I so fascinating. And to get an answer to this question, I decided to go ahead and just ask him, what is with all of the staring? I was under the impression that you could see spiritual beings. You are different from the other demons, explained Bryce. Different how? I asked. As far as individualism goes, we have pretty nice healthy range. I don't understand what you're saying, said Bryce. He means that most demons look pretty different from one another, translated Woden. That is true, but none have those weird headwinds, explained Bryce. And also, I had never seen them act the way you do. I was made to have headwinds so that I would not look directly about my father. And as for my behavior, I find it to be pretty on the mark, as far as general trends relating to my peers, I explained. He says that that all demons are trolls, like jerks around the edges. And by now the three of us had made our way towards the flower portion of the garden, and Woden had noticed some weeds growing near the flower bed, and she proceeded to clean it up a bit. And from time to time she would pick a flower and put it inside her sleeve. Look here, kid. I don't know what your priest has been telling you about us demons, but we do no longer do the soul-sucking thing. And it's after the end of the world, or don't you know that yet? I said it to him sternly. I never thought that there was such a thing as the end of the world. And I just thought it went on and on, said Bryce thoughtfully, and then he added, I think your peers haven't heard that the world had already ended or whatever, and most of the demons I ever met asked for bargains in exchange for your soul. And why do you even want a soul anyway? Man, don't worry about it, I said, landing beside Woden. And she then translated for me. What he means is that he doesn't plan to tell you why demons want a soul. If you know the actual value of it, you will never sell it for something as petty as riches or world domination. I was wondering, said Bryce. Yes, said Woden, turning to look at him. Wondering, mumbled Bryce as he curled up into a ball on the floor. And concerned, Woden brought out from beneath her sleeve 2 mirrors, and she placed herself in front of Bryce to look at him from one of the mirrors. And then I held up the other side to show an infinite repeating image. And in the one mirror when Woden showed nothing, while the other mirror behind her still showed an image. And putting the mirrors away, Woden said, Bryce is being assimilated. Oh no, we have to save him, I said with a bit of an inflation, with fake tears in my eyes. Oh my God, the kid is being assimilated. What are we going to do? Woden sat a moment, and then she brought out a gun and shot him in the head. And then she said, well, that should buy us some time, and we should look around the house and to see if there is anything amiss. And kicking his head with my feet, I asked, wasn't that a bit excessive? Well, between dying and non-existence, I think I chose the better option, said Woden. If you say so, I commented. It's just that, when those weird creatures abandon, they start assimilating you. When you fuse into them, you literally cease to exist, So the quickest way to avoid getting assimilated is to just drop dead. Because assimilation is physical body erased and the soul and everything and all of the other interactions that you possibly could have possibly done. None of that is going to matter if we move on, said Woden. And we looked through the house from head to toe and we found nothing. And by now night had fallen and the gardener had just found Bryce's dead body. And we made our way towards the other buildings on the property, and the barracks and the separate quarters too were deserted. And while running to the artificial forest, we found what we were looking for, or rather, it found us. One of the statues in the garden, a cute little one that marked a grave, started glaring at me. And the freshly laid flowers seemed to tremble, and Woden saw where I was looking at, and Woden picked up the bouquet of flowers which grew as its dense coral around her. And Woden's rose activated the magic as it teleported Woden and her assailant to another realm for the pair to engage in combat. And it was a strange, bizarre-looking flower creature with hundreds of little buds attached to its stem. And the main flower was a blue aster with the yellow face of a person in its center. And to kick things off, I decided to try the obvious and just burn the weird flower creature. And with my blue flames, the minor buds opened so while we were reading their faces all shielded of different colors. And as the flames consumed them, they made the most unnatural wailing. And the main one, angered by the loss of its companions, it then grew its roots in an effort to bind me and Woden. And to limit its movement, Woden removed from the floor from her world. And now with the creature eternally free-falling, we regained control of the fight once again. And since fire was not making much progress, Woden reached into her robes and drew out one of her cards. And the card was apparently called Decat. And she threw it at the forehead of the flower creature, and from the card flowed a reddish brown torrent as it covered the plant from head to toe. And it then started to corrode it, and as the creature made a hellish screech, and eventually it wiggled down into the pistol. That is what it is called, said Woden, landing on top of the flower head. and the head seemed to have been made of stronger material, and her hair was growing, searching for a place to take root, and the following magic card she brought out created magma, and she hovered a little on top of her prey till it became no more. And once the creature died for certain, and we found ourselves back in the garden, and Woden was holding a terribly smelly white flower that reminded her of a starfish. And holding it, Woden said, "It is called Astapelinia gigantea, and it mimics the smell of rotting flesh that insects pollinated." "Great, and do you want to plant it?" I asked. "Not really. It is a smelly, unpleasant flower," said Woden, digging a hole and placing the flower inside. And once the hole was covered, she said, "Now you stay there forever, out of sight and out of mind." And by now it was 5 hours to midnight, and there were people wandering about with torches, and I got a little apprehensive for reasons I do not understand. And as the people with torches got nearer, we started to hear what they were shouting, and they were apparently looking for Woden, and eventually one of the fellows saw Woden. "I saw her! I found her!" yelled Turpin. "And by the gods, you shouldn't be out this late at night." "Well, why? What's the worst thing that can happen?" asked Woden. "Well, you could get kidnapped," said Turpin, inventing something. And slowly more people gathered, and among the folks searching for Woden was a couple of knights, and Bryce, who was alive and well. And it was at this moment when my head started to hurt a bit, and it was too much of a bother to think through the moment. And not questioning why the kid was alive, I followed behind Woden as she was let out of the artificial forest and past the gardens and back to the manor. It just felt like when you kill an abandoned, all of the the abandon stops existing. So then all of the actions that were done because of that creature's existence become undone. And past the garden and back to the manor, and when Woden came inside, Bruin and Philippa were waiting for her in the classroom, and this was their favorite spot to scold their children, and Turpin came inside as well as closing the door behind him, and the other two brothers pressed their ears against the door to listen to the conversation, and they always found it amusing whenever their parents had to be strict. And Bruin was the first to speak. "You did a very bad thing today, Woden." "Yes, I know," said Woden, staring at her feet. "Oh, you do? And pray to tell me exactly what did you do wrong," said Philippa, folding her arms. "I killed your son, Bryce," said Woden, sadly. "Wait, what?" said Philippa, taking it back. And Bryce, too, was shocked, and his brother Philip said, "You don't look very dead to me, do you?" "I don't feel dead," said Bryce, feeling his chest and arm. "Bryce is fine," said Turpin to calm his mother. "The girl is just trying to get a rise out of you or confuse you." Regaining her composure, Philippa said, "That is a very mean thing for you to say." "I know, I just had to come clean as well, and even if I did not kill him, I feel like I did," said Woden, placing her hands to her back while she fidgeted with her left feet, as some children tend to do, and I could not tell if she was in earnest or if she was insane. And Bruin sat a moment and then said, It is normal to have bad thoughts about your family member as long as you do not act upon them, and then you have nothing to apologize for. I have thought of decapitating my husband twice today, and I did not go through it, and it doesn't make you a bad person to think bad thoughts from time to time," warned Philippa. And Bruin gulped, guessing the reason why Philippa wanted to kill him at this very moment. And to change this train of thought, Turpin intervened by saying, "Look here, Woden," said Woden. "I already know your name, Woden. The problem is that a little girl should not leave home without permission," explained Turpin. "I thought the grounds were also part of our home," explained Woden. Well, yes, but let's see. You are allowed to play there, but only while the sun shines, and at night the garden grounds can be dangerous. And it is for this very reason that girls should stay indoors when the night falls," explained Turpin. "And why are the gardens dangerous at night?" asked Woden, generally concerned. "And don't you have guards on patrols?" "Those on the night shifts tend to slack, and it is often that we find intruders when the morning comes," explained Turpin. "It is true, Bruin," asked Philippa. "And don't worry about it, Pippa," said Bruin, patting his wife on the shoulder. "And I would take home security more seriously," commented Woden. "Put traps, wire alarms, or spring crossbows or something." "That's mean, little girl," said Turpin. "It was just a suggestion," pouted Woden. And after hearing this, Philippa said, The important thing is that you learn your lesson." "Oh, yes, I learned my lesson," said Woden. And Turpin then commented, "But, Mother, you did not administer any type of punishment." "I will deal with it in the morning," said Philippa, yawning. And Turpin yawned too in mimicry of his mother, and he knew she would not remember, so he decided not to press the issue on the morrow. And the orphan brats were new to the complex, and he wasn't in a particular mood to treat Woden or Jotun as his sibling. Still, their presence made it a bit bearable when he thought of them as pets instead of people. And there was a certain animal-like characteristic about Jotun, and Turpin had first seen the girl an hour before dinner, and the girl was crawling on all fours, rubbing heads with their cat Cinnamon. And Woden was led to her bedroom, personally by Philippa, and she held Woden's hand with a vice grip, and almost as she suspected that Woden would run away from her at the moment she let go. And when Woden was taken to her room, she heard in the opposite room Jotun crying, and she asked Philippa, "What is the matter with her?" "I will go find out in the morning once I deal with you," said Philippa. And on inside the room, Philippa disrobed and bathed her with fastidiousness. And when she was done, she placed Woden in bed and turned off the candle, and then she closed the door behind her, locking it from the outside. And she then unlocked the door and went back inside, and she asked Woden, "Do you want me to leave the candle on or something?" "I don't mind the dark," said Woden. And Philippa closed the door behind her, and when she left Woden, she went to see what was bothering Jotun. And the girl immediately started crying the moment that Philippa entered the room. And the moment she left, Jotun started whining again. And after thinking a little, Philippa brought the cat into the room and placed it beside Jotun. And when Philippa left the room this time, the girl started complaining. And this entire scene was such a darling. And I commented to Woden, "Doesn't this all make you feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside?" "I suppose it is a nice change of pace," said Woden, closing her eyes. And then she opened them again, sitting up, and I commented, "Aren't you going to sleep?" "I can sleep when I'm dead," said Woden, widening her eyes. "And considering the last couple of days, I cannot blame you for being a tad prickly," I said, too, becoming somewhat tense, and I added, "So what do you want to do to pass the time?" And Woden getting up, put it on her DGO robes, and then she said, "We could wander the manor and maybe hunt some people." Like, not hunt as in, like, being spooky, creepy ghosts. That game did not prove so fruitful last time, and people here are not scared of the supernatural, and if there's something else, they just curse a magic user and go on with their lives. Pretty boring if you ask me, I said, pouting. Maybe you need a new interactions with humans, suggested Woden. Such as, I asked, folding my arms. "You could try a normal interaction, like invite a fellow for a cup of coffee or something," said Woden. "Nah, I'm not interested in getting along with the local fauna," I said. "And why not? Are you allergic to people or something?" "It isn't as bad if you give it a try," said Woden. "I would prefer not to," I said, hiding under the bed sheets. What do you want to do?" asked Woden. Lifting my head, I faced up. "You are the very first person who ever asked me that question." "What do you want to do?" And the demon be like, "Oh, you're the first person to ask me what I want to do." Woden then threw a pillow at me and started jumping on the bed, and one of the maids passing by said, "Go to bed already, people are trying to sleep." One started jumping and started to speak to me using her telepathy, and she said, "Let's be all quiet like church rats." "Don't you mean church mouses?" I corrected. "No, in churches you usually see rats," said Woden. "What is the difference between a mouse and a rat anyway?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Mainly rats are bigger in size, while mice have larger ears," explained Woden. "Enough, I am not in the mood to talk about rodents," I said, changing the subject, and I added, "especially when I hear one gnawing at the foot of the bed. It's like a little rat." "Are you certain it's a rat, and it could be something else?" suggested Woden. "It is a rat, certainly," I insisted. "Go check it out, and then see if it's a rat or not," said Woden. And I went under the bed, and certainly there was something making a biting noise. However, it was thankfully not a rat, but two lurkers talking with one another, and they stopped their conversation when they saw me staring at them, and they moved from under the bed and jumped out the open window to resume their private conversations elsewhere. Alright, so we'll continue this later. Bye-bye, God bless. Oh my.